Ladies and gentlemen, you were taught to be kind, to be generous, to see the good in people. But what if I told you not everyone deserves your kindness, especially not narcissists? See, being nice to a narcissist doesn't earn you peace. It earns you pain. It doesn't build respect. It builds control. And today we're going to talk about why protecting your peace means stopping the cycle and never being nice to a narcissist again. You ever notice how the nicer you are to certain people and the worse they treat you? It's backwards, right? You give more, they take more. You forgive, they push again. You try to see the good, and they show you the worst. That's not just a pattern. That's a system. And narcissists thrive in it. Here's the truth that hurts a little at first, but heals a lot later. Being nice to a narcissist is like handing over the keys to your peace and then acting surprised when they drive it off a cliff. They don't interpret kindness the way healthy people do. When you show them patience, compassion, or even silence, you're thinking, I'm being mature, I'm being respectful, I'm keeping the peace. But they're thinking, I've got control, I'm winning. They don't see grace, they see leverage. And when you hand it to them, they will use it every single time. This is where it gets tricky because you're not being fake, you're genuinely trying. You're trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. You're hoping maybe if you're just a little more understanding, they'll soften, they'll wake up, they'll get it. But narcissists don't respond to kindness with change. They respond with more manipulation. Your niceness doesn't make them reflect. It makes them rehearse. It gives them more space to perfect their act. And here's what's really going on. When you're dealing with a narcissist, every time you give in with a smile, you're training them, you're teaching them how to treat you. Every it's okay when it's not. Every I understand when they don't deserve it. Every quiet exit. Instead of a firm boundary, all of that becomes a signal. Not that you're kind, but that you're accessible, that they can spin the story again, that they can cross the line again. And they will, because they don't change based on your kindness. They change their tactics. And what makes it even more painful is that often you're just trying to keep the peace. Maybe you were raised to be the fixer. Maybe your whole life you've been told just be the bigger person. And sure, there's a place for grace. There's a place for understanding, but not when it costs your self-respect. Not when the other person sees your effort, not as love, but as weakness. Narcissists are experts at identifying who they can exploit, and niceness is the bait. They don't want authentic connection, they want control. They don't build with you. They build around you with lies, guilt, silence, or charm, whatever gets them back in the center. And the more you excuse it, the deeper they root in your life. That's the part that most people miss. You're not dealing with someone who's just hard to love. You're dealing with someone who sees your love as a tool. And if you're not careful, that tool will be used against you until there's nothing left but confusion, burnout, and broken boundaries. Let me be clear. I'm not saying stop being a good person. I'm saying stop offering your goodness where it's only being used. There's a difference between kindness and self-sacrifice. There's a difference between patience and enabling. If your niceness is making you smaller, quieter, more anxious, or constantly apologizing for things that aren't even yours, that's not strength. That's survival. And you deserve better than that. You're allowed to be kinder and clear. You're allowed to love people and leave them when they keep hurting you. You're allowed to say no more without explaining yourself for the 100th time, because the most powerful thing you can do with a narcissist is stop feeding the system. Step out of the game. Let their manipulation echo into silence. That's not cruel. That's clarity. That's peace. So the next time you find yourself tempted to be nice just to keep the peace, ask yourself, whose peace am I protecting? Theirs or mine? Because being nice to a narcissist isn't noble. It's permission. One of the hardest things to accept when you're dealing with a narcissist is that they will use your best qualities against you. The things that make you decent, caring, grounded. Those are the exact things they'll twist. Not because they misunderstand them, but because they know exactly how powerful those qualities are, and they know how to weaponize them. Your empathy, they'll call it overreacting. When you finally set a boundary, your patience, they'll stretch it until you snap, then blame you for losing it. Your loyalty, that just means you'll stay while they do what they want. And your morals, that becomes the blueprint for their manipulation. Here's how it plays out. You try to hold space. You give them the benefit of the doubt. You say things like, I just want to understand, or I believe. Everyone deserves compassion. And those are beautiful things with the right people. But narcissists aren't interested in understanding. They're interested in advantage. So they take those values you live by, the fairness, the grace, the self-awareness, and they twist them into guilt, into obligation, into silence. Suddenly, you're the one second-guessing yourself. You're the one walking on eggshells, wondering if maybe you were too harsh, if maybe you should have said it a different way, if maybe it's your job to keep the relationship steady. And that's not an accident. That's the outcome they want. Because if they can keep you tangled in your own conscience, they don't have to look at theirs. See, narcissists are experts at flipping the script. You try to hold them accountable. They say you're too sensitive. You bring up a boundary. They say you're selfish. You need space. Now you're abandoning them. Every move you make in alignment with your values, they will reframe as a personal attack on them. And if you're someone who deeply values fairness and kindness, that lands hard. It hits where it hurts because you actually care. And that's what they count on. They know you don't want to be the bad guy. They know you're trying to do the right thing. So they build a story where doing the right thing means constantly bending, constantly sacrificing, constantly excusing, and they do it with just enough charm, just enough vulnerability to make you feel like walking away would be cruel. But let's call it what it is. That's not love. That's emotional blackmail, dressed up in guilt and confusion. That's someone who knows your character and uses it to keep you controlled. And listen, it's easy to fall into, especially if you were raised to believe that being good means keeping the peace, no matter what. Especially if you've been taught that your value comes from how much you can give, how much you can fix, how much you can absorb without flinching. But there's nothing noble about letting someone weaponize your heart. There's nothing righteous about being you. You are allowed to have values and boundaries. You are allowed to say, I can love you, but I won't let you twist me. You are allowed to walk away, not because you've stopped caring, but because you've started caring about yourself. When a narcissist tries to make your integrity feel like a liability, that's when you know you're not in a relationship. You're in a performance. And the longer you keep trying to play your part, the more it costs you your peace, your clarity, your identity. Because here's the truth. They'll never admit they don't want a partner. They want a mirror, someone to reflect their version of the world back to them where they're always right, always the victim, always justified. And if you stop playing along, if you hold to your truth and refuse to be guilted back into the cycle, that's when the mask slips. That's when the story changes. And that's when you know you were never the problem. So when your morals are being turned against you, when your kindness becomes a trap, when doing what's right feels like it's slowly draining you, that's your sign not to be louder, not to be nicer, but to be done. One of the most painful illusions to let go of is the belief that if you just love someone enough, they'll change. That if you just show them patience, give them room, stay committed, eventually they'll see the light that your love will be enough to wake them up, heal them, inspire them to be better. But here's what's real. Love doesn't fix narcissism. Kindness doesn't break through entitlement, and no amount of understanding will make someone change who doesn't want to change. That truth hurts because you probably gave it your all. You showed up, you listened, you forgave, you stayed when you should have walked. You put their needs first, over and over, thinking this time it'll land. This time they'll get it. And every time you made space for them to grow, they filled it with excuses or silence, or worse, they twisted it into more control. Because narcissists don't respond to love with gratitude. They respond with expectation. Your love becomes the baseline, the standard, and the moment you ask for something back, respect, honesty, reciprocity, suddenly you're the difficult one, the selfish one, the ungrateful one. See, they don't see love the way you do. You see it as connection, as shared effort, as mutual care. They see it as a tool, something to gain admiration, something to manipulate loyalty, something to keep you tethered, not something they have to protect or nurture. So, while you're trying to lead with love, they're leading with strategy. And every time you extend more grace, they take it as confirmation that they don't need to change, because you'll stay. You'll keep showing up. you'll keep hoping, and that's what they count on, your hope. They won't tell you that outright, but they know it's there. That little voice inside you that says, or they're just hurting, or they didn't mean it. SS, or maybe if I explain it differently, they'll understand this time, but they won't. Not because they can't, but because they don't want to. There's no incentive to change when